Afternoon and welcome to a special edition of Eye on Northeast Kansas. September is Suicide Awareness Month. As part of our Hear Me, See Me mental health initiative, we want to give you the tools to support your loved ones and yourself. This is a tough topic today, and as we go through our discussion, if you recognize yourself or a loved one struggling, know that the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there for you 24/7. Why talk about suicide? Because Kansas saw a more than 51% increase in the suicide rate from 2011 to 2022. 6,051 lives lost to suicide in that time, hitting a high of 590 in 2022. While we talk a lot about teens, more than half of people who died by suicide were ages 25 to 54. In addition to those we lost, another 8,400 Kansans visited an ER for suicidal ideation in 2022 alone. That was a 51% increase from 2016. So what can we do? What can we watch for in our friends and loved ones before it gets to that point? Carrie Reeves is Director of Crisis Services at Vallejo Behavioral Health, and Karen Smothers is Chief Clinical Operations Officer at Family Service and Guidance Center. They are both here to guide us through this part of the conversation. Welcome to both of you. Hi. And Carrie, what do we know about a crisis? Do things always have to reach crisis point, or are things going on before it gets that far?
A lot of times things are going on before. You can kind of see the build up to that crisis situation. They start to isolate, they start to just act differently, withdraw. So a lot of times we're seeing people at crisis that are leading up to that major event.
And we do have a list of things that you can look for in yourself or a loved one. If you can take us through these, Carrie, one of those is like actually talking about. Some people are physically out loud talking about suicide.
Yep. A lot of times we'll have people that say that their loved ones are saying that that they're going to go drive their car off a road, or they're going to go kill themselves, or they're just having thoughts of wanting to hurt themselves. And so that's a lot of times when they bring them in to talk to us.
Things like changes in behavior such as sleeping too much or too little, maybe they're using drugs or alcohol more, maybe some extreme mood swings, all of those are warning signs.
Yes.
So Karen, this is specifically in adults. This is a list Carrie gave me for adults. We talk about in physical health how teenagers and children aren't just miniature adults. Is that true in mental health? How might they be a little bit different?
Yeah, good point. So adolescence, if we all remember, can be a time of a lot of turmoil and just trying to understanding who we are. It's a time of self-identity and figuring out not only how your body works and the changes that are going on in your body, but also your mind. So adolescents also will experience and can experience mental health problems. In fact, we find that a lot of mental health disorders start in childhood, usually around age 11 on. So we want to be attuned to adolescents who are expressing concerns about suicide, some of what you've already mentioned, whether it be just thoughts of distress. One of the things we really want to look for in an adolescent who is exhibiting some risk is an uncharacteristic change. So if they have a personality that's very outgoing, very exuberant, who suddenly starts shutting down, or the opposite, someone who seems kind of quiet or introverted, who suddenly seems very much at peace or is doing things they wouldn't characteristically do, it's maybe time to ask some questions.
And what should we do if we notice those signs for children and adolescents first?
What I really encourage parents to do, of course, is, and any caregiver of a youth, is to really start a conversation. Make sure that they understand that there are changes that go on within an adolescent or during development, but that some people will experience thoughts of suicide. That doesn't mean you have to act on them, but let's talk about that. So asking an adolescent, do you know or know of someone who's expressed thoughts of suicide? Opening up that dialogue. And then do you have someone you would talk to if you ever had these thoughts? And giving a trusting, an opening for a trusting discussion about it.
And what about when we're adults, for our friends or loved ones as adults? Because we're supposed to talk to kids, but
yeah.
it can be hard when it's a peer.
It is hard when it's peer. We always encourage people to have those direct conversations. Don't be scared to bring up the idea of, or question of killing them, asking if they're having suicidal thoughts or wanting to kill themselves, because it's not going to put the idea in their head like some people think it will. We find the direct conversations work best, and just getting them connected to their natural resources that they have in place and getting them the help they need.
Well, we know that 988 Suicide Lifeline is there 24/7. We're going to talk a bit more later on about other resources that may be available, including the numbers to reach Family Service and Guidance Center and Vallejo. Thank you to both of you, Carrie, Karen,
Thank
for
you.
being here and letting us know those important things to watch for. Schools are often on the front lines of helping students who are struggling, so we'll take a look at their efforts next. A great chunk of a young person's time is spent in school, which puts teachers, coaches, principals, and other school staff on the front lines of spotting a student who might be struggling. The Kansas Department of Education is very aware of this. Their school mental health coordinator, Trish Backman, is here with how they are helping schools fill this role. And it is a big role that schools have. How are they integral in this prevention and awareness effort?
Well, every year under the Jason Flatt Act, every person that's hired by a school has to have a minimum of 1 hour of training on what are the risk factors, what are some of the protective factors we can help kids build, and then what are some of the things that we can put in place to kind of wrap around a kid that might be struggling. And of course, first is make sure their parents are aware that we're starting to see some signs. Your previous guests were mentioning, looking at things and changes of behavior. Sometimes it is making sure that if a kid who has been very outgoing or have been very active in sports or activities, if they're starting to pull away, just asking and making those connections with kids. Getting to know the kids that are in your classes and knowing when something is off is always the first protective factor that we ask teachers to build.
What kind of resources and support can you offer educators, whether that be in terms of some written plans, some guidance, in addition to the training? Because teachers, we feel you. You weren't trained as mental health counselors, but yet here we are in today's day and age.
That's right. And there's a misconception that schools are the catch-all and we provide everything for everyone. And we try and make sure that students know that they're there to learn, teachers are empowered that they're there to educate. But when we do hear these crisis statements coming from a kiddo, if a teacher's not comfortable asking questions, everyone has access to what is the Columbia Screener in our new updated toolkit. And anybody, whether it's a Rule 10 coach, a bus driver, a janitor, all of our kids are connected with some kind of caring adult in the building. We want everyone to have the ability to ask questions and do it in a caring way with a person that kid trusted enough to share something very personal about. But if they're not comfortable, our recommendation, you stay with them, you keep them safe, but we have asked every single school building to identify who their school mental health team is. And if I'm with a kiddo and I'm not comfortable asking the questions, I stay with them until I can get them to that caring adult in the building who has the training. And then what they do is ask the questions, and then we hand off to the licensed, clinically trained staff that we're going to partner with as an agency, and then let them facilitate the more in-depth process like the ladies who were here.
And there's also the back end of it. You mentioned those plans that schools were required to have updated effective
Yes.
this school year. And one new thing that's in those plans is reintegration. So if a student has struggled, perhaps
Yes.
they did have to have some time away, you're helping them. There's a plan in place for them to get back into the school setting. How vital is that reintegration piece of it?
The reintegration is very important, whether a kid's been out for one day. So say a kid comes and we talk through something and we know they really are having some ideation. And maybe we build a Stanley Brown safety plan and we work through that, and the parents take them to go get connected with a counselor. Maybe they come back within a day. Maybe they do an inpatient stay for 3 to 5 days and they get some medicine on board. Or maybe they go into a more intense inpatient for 30 days. The school has forms that we can now fill out. It's a release of information so that we can work with the facility they're at and then bring them back where we're using the skills that they're building while they're away, and we still have those available so that we can implement them safely where they're at now and give them a safety net. Sometimes they come back 1 hour at a time, sometimes it's a half day, but giving kids what they need at the level where they're at and what they can handle so they don't come back to the setting and get re-triggered.
Having some support in place to help them adjust and really learn how they can put those coping skills into practice. So much going on, Trish. I appreciate you being here and sharing a little bit of
bet.
what's been happening at the school level. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
A death by suicide creates a ripple on the many lives left behind. You'll hear how one family is using their loss to reach out to others next. This month is deeply personal for all of those whose lives have been personally affected by suicide. It can be very difficult to talk about, but a family from Corning, Kansas has made it their mission to speak out in hopes those who are struggling feel and know it's okay to do the same before it's too late. Brenda Quigley started Damon's Purpose in memory of her son. Brenda is here with us today. I appreciate you coming to visit with us again.
Appreciate you asking.
Your son was Damon.
Yes.
Who was Damon?
Damon he was 13. He was a 7th grader at Centralia. He was, he loved sports. He was very athletic and had a lot of friends. He was smart, didn't like to do schoolwork a lot, but he was smart. Very active.
Handsome.
He was very handsome, yes. We found out during COVID that he had naturally curly hair when you couldn't get haircuts. So yeah, he was just an all around, quote unquote normal teenager.
And he was 13 years old when he
Yes.
took his own life. How, not that it would ever not be a shock,
Right.
but in particular, what was shocking to all of you besides the act itself?
Probably that he didn't share with us that he was having those feelings. Damon and I were very close. We're a very close family, and I was just surprised that he didn't tell us what was happening. And I really feel like it was maybe because maybe he couldn't find the words to say. Maybe he didn't want to disappoint us. We'll never know. But I think it's important now to have those conversations so that other people who may be having those feelings will know that it's okay. It's okay to start that conversation. Or if you, like was previously mentioned, if you see something in your friends or your family, that you start that conversation. So I think that those are very important lessons we learned.
And it is important to note, as we didn't kind of get a chance to touch on, not everybody always shows traditional signs. And
No.
such was the case with Damon, because you said he asked you to
Yes.
bring home his snacks
Yes.
that night. So he was
Yes.
making plans for that night,
Yes.
but then ultimately made this decision at some point during the day.
Yes.
Your family's been very open. You wrote it in Damon's obituary.
We did.
Why did you decide to take this action? And what is the message that you hope to carry forth with everyone?
I think it was, we know a lot of people and a lot of families who have been affected by suicide. And traditionally, we talk about it, but do we really? Do we really talk about it? Do we really foster that openness? And so it was important for us that we face it head on. And we open that door for other people to face it head on. It was also important that we not internalize it or not tell Damon's friends or give them the impression that they shouldn't talk about it. Because once there's a suicide in your community, you worry about others. And so it was important for us to just let everyone, not just our family, but everyone know that it was okay to talk about it and that we were going to try to do something about it.
Well, that's one of everyone says, what is the bracelet you're wearing? It's Damon's Purpose. It's okay to not be okay.
It is, yes. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be brave enough to ask for help. It's okay to take medication. It's okay to go to therapy. It's just not okay to struggle in silence, which may have been the case for Damon.
What has been the reception as you've spoken with young people? And I know your own school district has been very open and receptive to having your
Yes.
efforts in.
We just had on Sunday we called it Unplugged Family Game Day, and it was I kind of prefer to be proactive, not reactive, like we had to be, and so we kind of made it our mission to foster activities that promote mental wellness, and so I kind of hoped a few people would show up, and I'm sure we had well over 100 people, and so to say that they have been supportive would be an understatement. They have absolutely embraced us as a family and supported us.
Well, Brenda, we appreciate you sharing your story because it is an important one. Like you said, if you didn't talk about it, it's almost like telling other people who are struggling
Yes.
it's not okay to talk about it, which is the exact opposite
Yes.
message. Damon's Purpose is the name of the organization. You can find Brenda and her family on Facebook under that name if you would like to find out more about their efforts or how to have them in your community. So Brenda, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
And we've had a lot of discussions today, so if you are struggling, help is out there. We want you to know that and how to get connected. We'll look into that next. We have shared a lot of information and personal stories today, but knowing how you might feel and what to watch for in others doesn't mean a whole lot if you don't know how to take the next step. That is why Isaac Johnson from NAMI Kansas is here to let us know, Isaac, that help is available. We have mentioned the 988 crisis line, which is incredibly vital. That's 24/7.
Yeah.
So anybody can do that. What other things do we have? Are we really equipped in Kansas to help people?
That's a really interesting question because there's so many ways we can do suicide prevention, right? We have specific groups that do that, like 98, that sort of thing. But I mean, there's also so many other things we can do to connect people with help. So for instance, NAMI Kansas puts on, our connection support groups. And if you just need that sense of, I need to find someone who can understand what I'm going through, there you go. You just go talk with someone and find that sense of connection. And sometimes that connection comes from other things that aren't explicitly even mental health related. So maybe that's finding like a hobby group you like, maybe that is going through a therapy support group of some sort. Maybe that's you join like a softball team and that softball team really helps lift you up. All kinds of things you can do there to help prevent suicide.
How do you find what's right for you? That's kind of literally your job. How do you decide which step you should take? And maybe is it just a matter of talking it through? If I think I need help, I need to reach out to NAMI Kansas. What then would happen? What would be the things you would ask me? What sorts of things would you look into? No,
you call me, right? And if you say I'm thinking of suicide, I may be like, whoa, are you in an emergency right now? But if it's just, I'm really struggling right now, I'm here to connect you with resources, but I'm a social worker. Like I can sit and listen to you too, and then we can walk together. So I can, ask you questions related to healthcare. Like, do you have insurance? What's your experience been like with therapy? Do you have any support systems in your life? And then from there, taking steps to figure out, what's a good option for you? So for instance, I had someone call recently. Christianity is a really big piece of his life, and he was trying to find a church that worked for him and was aware of his mental health needs. And it's like, okay, well, I do actually know some churches that can do that for you. So it's kind of hard for me to sit here and say, here's all the resources, because there's just so many possibilities, and it's just really is that first step of reaching out and finding someone.
We hear sometimes from people who say it's difficult to find resources on their own, that either somebody tells them, well, if you're not in crisis, then there's this wait list. What is the reality, and how are you able to help maybe navigate some of that if people feel like they're running into, you have to wait weeks or months?
Well, again, that's why we have groups like the NAMI Connection support group. I'll also say, just as someone who used to struggle a lot with suicidal ideation, has had plenty of friends who've struggled with it, I have developed my own sort of tactics, right? That's why I'm saying find something you like. My sort of strategy is always like, if I'm feeling suicidal right now, but if I get through this week, then at the end of the week, I'm gonna get myself an ice cream cone or something, kind of like a reward for myself, something to look forward to.
And that's where the groups can help until you can find formal therapy. And here are some of the numbers from some of the things we've talked about today. NAMIKansas.org. Isaac's contact information is on there as well. FSGC has a crisis line, 785-232-5005. The Vallejo crisis line, 785-234-3300. And a super long list of resources is posted at wibw.com/hearmesee me. It has just some of those groups. It has some of the national organizations. I think, Isaac, bottom line that we all want people to know is that they don't have to do this alone.
No. And again, you can absolutely reach out to me, right? And that's one of the nice things about having people like me is I can connect you with other people who can connect you with more people. And that's why NAMI's helpline exists.
It can be tough for anyone, and so knowing you don't have to go through it alone or navigate it alone is great to know. Isaac, thank you so very much. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your work that you're doing every day to help people get connected. And we appreciate you for being here to listen today, to let everyone know that you hear them and you see them. Again, wibw.com/hearmesee me has that whole list of resources, including the contact information you just saw. And if you're in crisis right now, remember 988 is there for you all the time. Thanks for being here.
Get the latest news, weather, and sports at WIBW.com or follow WIBW on X, Facebook, and our mobile app. Thank you for making 13 News the most watched evening newscast.